Hello, my beautiful friends. I am back with another video on a topic that is something that I am struggling with myself. I always like to speak to things that I've either struggled with in the past or that I'm struggling with now because I just feel like I can help people so much more when I've already been through it or I'm going through it and I can offer help. So let's get to it. Today, before I forget, if you will click like and subscribe to my channel, like my videos, I really appreciate it if you'll share them. Would love that, and I would really just be blessed by that. So today's video is how to navigate singleness. I know that for some of you that's, kind of like an ugly word. You're like, I don't like being single. A lot of times people look at us like, oh, poor thing, you're single. They kind of take pity on you, which is not a bad thing. Um, it's a very blessed season if you allow it to be, but I know that it also is a struggle at times. If you're like me, sometimes the wait seems kind of long. I am almost 38 years old and still single, wanting to have children, and it can be a struggle at times, so I understand that completely. It's a struggle when you see others around you getting married, getting engaged, and you're like, here I am, God, it's me, like, hi, like, trust me, God has not forgotten about you. There's sexual frustration and temptation. I'm just going to be real with you. Jesus was very real when it comes to this stuff. He knows our struggles, okay? Loneliness, just being alone, wanting that companionship, that partner in life. And so I want to tell you, I have about 7 things that are going to help you, little tips and just wisdom that I think will help you through your single season. So, number one, that being said, number one, let God choose your mate. This is something that I heard, and it was so profound yet so simple. But Derek Prince, if you Google or YouTube him, search YouTube Derek Prince and singleness, he talks about he let God choose his mate, because he was like, God, you know what? If it's up to me, I will just choose the wrong person. I will choose based on my flesh, based on people's opinions, whatever, right? So Derek Prince said that he asked God to choose his mate for him. And God literally brought a woman into his life, and he knew, this is the one that God's sending me. So let God choose your mate. And I want to tell you a little Bible story about that, so we can see that the Bible is living and active, and it's sharper than a double-edged sword. So if we go back to Genesis, I believe it's Genesis, what I write in my notes, 25, 24. So in Genesis 24, we all know who Father Abraham is, right? And so he had a son named Isaac, and Ishmael by this time was already gone, out the house, married off, everything like that. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of the last sibling that's not been married, not had kids. So I kind of understand where Isaac was at the point. He's the only one that's not married yet, no kids yet. And he's kind of like, all right, I'm still here. So Abraham sends his servant to go choose a spouse for Isaac. And he says, you know what? I don't want none of those Canaanite chicks, okay? Like, you can keep them over there. He says that because basically Canaanites were idolatrous and they were unbelievers, so he didn't want his son to be unequally yoked. Unequally yoked means when you are trying to marry someone, it's very important that you're kind of where they're at as far as Christianity. Now, you may be kind of different places, by a little bit, but it's very important to marry someone who's also a Christian. I'm not saying it can't work out at all if you don't, but the Bible says it's very important to be equally yoked, and we all know it can be difficult, when it comes to raising kids and different things like that. We know it can get difficult when you are, trying to choose, are we going to take them to church? Are we not? Like, there's so many things that factor in. Are we going to baptize them? Are we not? Are we going to, if you're Catholic, there's different things like that. So Abraham wanted to make sure that Isaac was equally yoked with his wife, right? He wanted a believer for his wife. So he sends his servant to go choose a wife for him. And when he goes and he chooses the wife, the first thing he does is he prays. And this is so important. This goes back to my number one point of letting God choose your spouse for you. First, he prays, okay? I'm going to stop right there. If you are not praying for your spouse, you're doing it wrong, okay? You need to pray because we need to ask for God's guidance and wisdom and to help us choose the right person. You know, God gave us free will, of course, but there's a permissive will and then there's, and there's a perfect will. And I don't know about you, but I want God's perfect will for my life. So anytime I'm going to date or anything like that, I have always prayed. And I haven't always liked the answers I've gotten, but I've trusted God through that. And I truly know that when God finally says yes, I'm going to know, and I'm going to have peace. There was a lady, I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her, back when I used to work at Daystar, and she just said, Maria, when you meet the man that's supposed to be your spouse, she said, peace will flood your soul. And I just held on to that because that is just something that, I know is going to happen. And so we need to be praying. We need to be seeking the Lord for his guidance in choosing a mate. Some of you guys, you might not even be praying about this. And I'm not here to condemn you at all, but I would begin. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive. So I would begin to pray for your spouse. All right. So here comes the next part of the story. So as the Bible says that he's praying and he says, Lord, I know you're going to guide me. And Abraham says, I know the Lord's going to guide him. And he says, if you would bring someone that would offer me water, because I've taken a long journey, and they would also offer my camels some water. That's a very specific sign. I know sometimes we want to look for signs from God, and we might see birds flying in the air or like something on Instagram, and we think, oh yeah, that's the sign. But we can pray specifically if we need to for a big sign that God can show us. So he asks before he's even done praying, you guys, before he's even done praying, all of a sudden here comes Rebecca. And Rebecca's carrying a water jug, she's carrying her jug, and she sees him, and I think, I can't remember if I have the story right. Let's see, I have it right here because I want to make sure I'm telling you correctly. Okay. Let's see. Oh, so he asks the woman, will you please let down your jar that I may have a drink? Immediately, Rebecca says, drink, my lord, and I will water your camels too. Boom. Boom. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. So he was part of their family, and that just means part of the family of God. They're not condoning interfamily marriage. Or what is that called? I don't know. Anyway, sorry, off topic. She was a very beautiful woman, and she filled her jar, and she watered all the camels. So another thing that this teaches me or tells me is that Rebecca went above and beyond when it comes to being a servant. And to be a Proverbs 31 woman, which I encourage you ladies to read that, and males as well. So ladies, we need to read that to see how we should be as far as concerning a wife. And men, you may want to read Proverbs 31 to see what kind of wife you should like. So the Proverbs 31 woman, she was servant-hearted. She was hardworking. She was kind. It says, I think Proverbs 31:25 says that she opens her mouth with wisdom and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue, right? So we want to be kind. We want to be servant-hearted. We want to be hardworking. We want to have all those qualities of the Proverbs 31 woman. So anyway, what happens? He tells her what happens, and he said, would you come back with me? And she says, of course. And so they end up marrying, and it's a beautiful, beautiful love story of Isaac and Rebecca. So all that being said, with point number one is that we should always pray for our spouse. Pray specifically. I have a friend of mine that just encouraged me recently, and oh my gosh, her testimony of her husband and everything, just really filled me with so much hope. But she just talked about how specific she was in her prayers, and that she knew that that was her husband once she met this guy, because he had all the qualities